Okay, board.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, yeah, it is 1:30, yes, sorry.
I was supposed to have a hearing.
Is that what we're here for?
1 minute late.
It flashes right on the 6, so you can't see it from here.
I'll call the meeting, the McHenry County Zoning Board of Appeals to order. The first petition on our agenda today is application Z25-0042. The address is 214 Raffle Road, Woodstock. The applicant is Joe DeFranzo, and the request is a reclassification from the A1 Agricultural District and the B3 General Business District to I1 Light Industrial District. The properties, 8 7/10 acres, are located on the east side of Raffle Road, north of Illinois Route 120 in Greenwood Road. There are 3 PIN numbers associated with this application: 0833376014, 0833376015, and 0833376016. I'll have the zoning members introduce themselves and the township in which they reside, starting on my left.
Robert Cozen, Algonquin Township.
Mary Donner, Greenwood Township.
I'm Linnea Kustra in Alden Township.
Vicki Gardner, Nanda Township.
Kurt Schnabel, Riley Township.
Bill Koenig, Grafton Township.
This petition has been reviewed and the following items have been received prior to today's scheduled hearing. The publisher's certificate of publication from the newspaper is dated June 17, 2025, and thereby meets ordinance requirements. The affidavit of posting was signed and the date posted was June 20th, 2025, and thereby meets ordinance requirements. Affidavit of mailing was signed and date mailed was June 12th, 2025, and thereby meets ordinance requirements. The survey has been checked against the petition, legal notice, and publication in the newspaper, and all 3 match. Filing fees have been paid. The endangered species consultation was not required for this petition, and the McHenry County Soil and Water Conservation District report has been received. This would be NRI 250244685. For anyone not familiar with how a zoning hearing works, the petitioner will present their case, then be asked questions by members of the board, and then also by staff. And then if there's any member of the public here that would like to ask a question, you'll be given the opportunity to do so at that time. And then we'll take testimony from the staff. And then after all that, if any member of the public wants to make a comment regarding this petition, you're able to do that as well. Anyone who's going to be speaking today, if you're giving testimony, if you're asking questions, you need to be sworn in. This is a quasi-judicial hearing, so we have rules of evidence that take place. So at this time, anyone who will be testifying or asking questions, I would ask you to raise your right hand. Do you affirm that the testimony you give today shall be the truth and the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay. All right, we'll turn it over to the petitioner. If you would please introduce yourself, maybe both of you, and then if, because this is being recorded, I would ask like just one person maybe answer questions, or otherwise just identify yourself so there, whoever is writing down this recording will know who you are.
Okay. I am Joe DeFranzo. I am the potential owner of the property based on this results of this hearing, obviously.
I'm Leonard LePetri. I am the current owner of the property.
So I'll give you just kind of a brief, because I know sometimes it's just easier to answer questions than to just ramble too long and not answer some of the questions that you guys have. But a little brief summary of our business. We are a construction company. We do municipal contracts, road resurfacing programs, drainage programs for all local municipalities and for the state, for IDOT. Our intention with this property is we are moving our office and our operations there. So we would like to build a office there and have our, storage and mechanic shop, equipment shop, all of our equipment stored there as well. I don't know if you guys would like to see this now or what. I mean, this is rough, obviously, it's nothing fancy because obviously I haven't purchased the property yet, so we're not gonna have any, like engineered stuff or architectural stuff. I don't know how many copies. I didn't make too many copies, but yeah. So this is just kind of an idea, it's just a chicken scratch of the 2 buildings that we plan on. We're gonna try to keep it all on one parcel. Oh, look at that, they had just enough.
Thank you.
So, and yeah, so we're gonna try to keep everything in that middle parcel as far as buildings. That corner lot on, 120 and Rockville Road is gonna be kind of vacant for the most part. It'll be potentially for growth 10, 15 year down the line possibly. But like I said, we're gonna try to keep everything on the northern 2 properties, parcels, I should say. Our equipment ranges just from small skid steers, pickup trucks, to smaller size excavators, dump trucks. We're not a huge company, we're a small family-owned business, so we're not gonna have 1,000 pieces of equipment parked outside. And for the most part, all of our equipment tends to stay on the job site throughout the summer months. We're seasonal, obviously, in the wintertime, as you guys all know, construction doesn't really go on too much in this area. So the trucks in the wintertime will just be parked there and they will not be going in and out, so it won't be like there's equipment going in and out all day, every day, all year long. It's more just they go out in the morning, they don't come back till 3, 4 o'clock. And technically in the summertime, sometimes they don't come back. Most of the equipment stays on site until the job's done and then we bring everything back.
Could I interrupt you for
yeah,
a moment?
no problem.
Just because I want you to understand this is not like a conditional use. This is not just geared like to what you would be doing on this property.
Right.
This is a map amendment, so it deals with anything that might happen in a light industrial district.
Okay,
So we can't consider like what you're doing. We are following the standards in the ordinance for industrial zoning.
okay.
So, I mean, it's nice you're telling us that, but what you have to address is the standards in the ordinance for rezoning. I'm going to have Anna put them up on screen. I mean, if you want to tell us about your business and stuff, but what we have to do is address any use that would happen in industrial, not just what you were doing and where you'd park your vehicles.
Okay. Well, I just thought by giving that a little bit, it would kind of
Yeah, if you
explain
want to, yeah,
why
if
we
you
need
want
to
to
switch
continue
from
that.
agricultural to industrial,
Yeah,
so.
but as far as your specific business.
Right, okay.
But
Fair
if
enough.
you want to incorporate any of that in these standards, these are, and I didn't see anything in your application that addressed these. So I want to make sure that you address these approval standards. So if you just want to
Yeah.
read through them
Yeah.
and address them, that'd be great.
May I ask, what's the nature of the business?
You can't, I'm sorry, you came in late, you can't ask questions. There'll be a time you can ask questions,
Okay.
but not right now. And you'll need to be sworn in before you can, so at that time I'll swear you in. So go ahead, sir.
Yep, okay, I'm sorry. Okay, so starting off with A, obviously it's, there is industrial about a couple hundred feet away. And then just south of the property is also it's a business, it's not industrial, but it looks like it's a mechanic shop or whatever, so it's very similar to what is in that area, what we're trying to do. We have, like I said, we have a mechanic shop, we have another industrial shop, kitty corner of it on 120. So it's, the zoning to me is very similar to what's in that area, as far as that. Property values, I mean, I don't see how adding buildings and stuff, are gonna lower property values. To me, if anything, we're gonna be, building it and developing it, which to me raises property values in most cases. Public health and safety, I don't see how we're gonna affect that in a negative way. It's, it's like I said, we're not doing anything different than what's happening in the areas. That's, the mechanic shop or anything like that. We don't use any toxic products or anything like that. It's just equipment and trucks that would be stored there. So I don't see a health and safety issue being a problem with changing the zoning. Relative gain to the public. Sorry, I have to read them first. In terms of D, you could kind of help me out there with that.
D,
What you're looking for, yeah, in terms of, I'm trying to go one by one here. The gain to the public, I mean, we don't do, you know, our contracts are all government contracts, so I don't see how, I mean, the gain to the public, I guess, is we improve local roads. I mean, I don't know what you guys are looking for in terms of an answer for that one. If you want to guide me kind of into what more you're looking for than what I just kind of said.
Well, basically, you know, the relative gain to the public for what you're doing, you know, instead of if it was denied, what would be the gain to the public?
Oh, if it was denied, what would be the gain?
If your proposed zoning is denied.
Oh, I mean, I don't know how the public gains from that. I mean, it's a vacant lot as of now, so I don't see really a negative or positive. It's, you know, they'll have a developed piece of land instead of an empty piece of land by, you know, in their town or whatever, you know, that's the best I can explain for that. So suitability, obviously it's a large chunk of land, you know, which suits our needs, obviously, for having a building, an office, and storage for our equipment and everything. But as far as what it's presently zoned at, I mean, there's not much farming going on in that area from what I've seen driving by. Not a lot of people are, you know, have a lot of farmland going on in that area. So, and from what I understand, the property, I mean, Len can probably attest to this more since he owns the property, but it's been vacant for quite some time now and hasn't been farmed in a while. So I don't see how that is going to be, you know, all of a sudden a farm property or an agricultural property where they're going to be growing anything.
So would you characterize what you're doing as a storage yard?
Well, it's a mix. It's going to be office and storing of our equipment. So it's going to be our entire operation will be there, yeah. I'm not sure if you're familiar with someone in Woodstock, but one of our competitors is actually in town here in Woodstock at Alliance Contractors. It would be very similar to what they have going on there, just on a much smaller scale because they're a much larger company than we are. But similar type of what we're going to be doing is very similar to what they have there on Lake Street over there. So, as of F, Len would probably be able to answer that one a little bit more. How long the length of time the property has been vacant.
I can, you want me to interject at this point, or?
However you want to do it. If
Okay.
you would just want to introduce yourself and address it.
I'm Len LePetri. I've owned the property. I'm the current owner. I've owned it for over 20 years. I'm not sure exactly, 23 years, something like that. I've had it on and off the market a number of times. The zoning has definitely hurt the saleability of the property as it sits because it's not really conducive to farming. It's not that large. There's not a farmer that wants to farm. You know, it's the total property is 8.7 acres. You're never going to farm completely 8.7 because there's going to be some other uses of roads and so on. And there's a cell tower on the property. So, and that was on there when I purchased it. So as far as this zoning goes, if I understand it, it's also suitable for, or it's zoned for single-family homes. Is that correct? Is that what A1 also includes?
I'll let Anna address that.
For the record, I'm Anna Kurtzman, Senior Planner. Depending on when the parcel was created and the regulations that were in place at that time, it may or may not be allowed to have a residence on it.
Okay. So we don't even know if you can build single-family homes on it. And again, with that cell tower there, it's probably not going to be very appealing for someone to necessarily build homes and somebody to buy them. So for the uses that I understand that the zoning allows, which is farming and possibly single-family homes, that I'm sorry, I was going to point at the map, but the property doesn't really fit well into that zoning. And there are other businesses around it, the body shop. I believe the next property is zoned I-1.
No.
Pardon?
You can't talk right now.
Okay, sorry.
I'm sorry.
So across the street, kitty corner, there's,
So I-1 is only
oh, I-1 is that little,
Chuck's building, yeah.
okay. Okay, so there is I-1 zoning that touches this property. And then across the street, kitty corner, there's another, I don't know what the zoning is, but it's a commercial property. And that's heading to the southwest. And then going down a little bit further, there's other commercial / industrial type properties. So it's not like this piece of property is in the middle of a subdivision, such as the top left-hand corner would be. It's on a hard corner with a light, and the current zoning makes it almost impossible to sell.
When was the B3 granted? How long has the,
Before I purchased it, ma'am.
so you purchased it with the B3?
Yes, ma'am.
And where is Marion Central High School?
Directly to the left, I believe it's
Yeah.
that, can I stand up and?
Sure, please.
I believe it's right here.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And, this is directly across Raffle Road, and I think Marion Central encompasses this.
Okay, you want to go back to the standards? Are you done with this map?
Yeah. Yeah, in terms of the community need for the proposed use, I mean, obviously adding, industrial or changing it from A1 to industrial obviously opens up the opportunity for the community. Building any sort of business creates job opportunities for people in the current, village or in the area as well too. So as far as a community need, obviously an empty lot isn't creating anything for a community. So obviously changing it to an industrial use can create opportunities for jobs and other things, other businesses on that parcel. And I think the next one.
Have you looked at the comprehensive plan? Are you familiar with what that is? Or
Uh,
what the designation is for that?
Yeah, I mean, I browsed, I didn't really, not sure if I printed everything out. I did look at it, and I think is it residential for that whole area is residential, even some of the industrial ones that are there. I mean, I just don't, my opinion, I guess, I don't see that area. I mean, there's a lot of businesses in that area, and I just can't see that area being a residential area. I mean, like I said, that's obviously my opinion, and from what I've seen in other properties that we own and stuff like that have that same 30-year plan of residential. It's just, normally these commercial areas are not, in my opinion, I don't see how they're gonna turn them into residential by, if it was all empty land, maybe I can see that, but the fact that there's existing businesses running already in that area, I can't see residential being on the top of the priority list for that area.
Okay. Do you have anything else that you want to talk about?
No, I think we covered most everything, but I'm, open to answer any questions that you all have about our plans and everything, so.
Okay, we'll start with questions on my right. Mr. Kernick.
Your current facility is located in
Algonquin?
where in Algonquin?
Are you familiar with Algonquin?
Somewhat, I know where J.C. Licht is.
We're right next door.
How about where your equipment is and stuff?
Right next door. Yeah. We back up to France and Son right there.
How big is the?
Small, we've outgrown it. That's the reason for this. It's 0.62 acres or something like that. The building's about 6,000 square feet.
Why was this particular parcel selected by you for your?
We were trying to stay as close as possible. I didn't want to make that far of a move. unfortunately, Algonquin didn't really have a parcel big enough for us that we could find. This one was convenient, and it was big enough for growth as well too, because we bought that building in 2017 because of growth, and now, you know, we grew out of it already again. So the fact that this has 8 acres, I don't see us ever growing out of it, but I don't want to make another move again in the future. So I was hoping to find something big enough to, you know, accommodate growth as well.
And I gather from your testimony, at least for the foreseeable future, you only need to use one of those lots.
Correct.
And across the street from these lots is residential on Raffle?
Yes, there are, yeah, there's a few, I don't know if it goes all the way down to 120, but there are a few residential homes, yes, and to the north of it as well.
There's about 8 or 10 directly across the street to the west, correct?
Yes.
That's all I have, Madam Chair.
Mr. Schnabel?
Just a couple, for right now. I'm assuming when I look at this diagram that this fenced-in area at the top, that's the cell tower that's existing
Yeah.
right now. That was an easy one. In your current location, I don't need you to run through your equipment. I think we all know what kind of equipment contractors like yourself would use. This 6,000 square foot building you're proposing, would that contain all of your equipment?
No.
That's, I'm guessing, just the smaller stuff.
The smaller stuff, and we'll be using it because we do maintenance on our own equipment too, so it'll be more for, pulling it. Also, we'll have probably like 2 bay doors to pull in trucks to do repairs and stuff on. And then the other half will be storing the smaller stuff, the stuff we don't like to keep outside.
Sure. So you're going to have some equipment outside.
Correct, yeah.
I imagine you're going to want to fence that equipment in at
Yes,
some point.
yes, we will. Yeah.
How much fencing you think you would probably, would you do the whole parcel?
Probably,
Parcel
yeah,
one?
I would probably want to do at least the dividing lines between us and maybe not between each of the parcels, the 3 parcels that we're going to own, but the back parcels, even though I think the one all the way to the north already has a fence from the property owner to the north of us, but maybe just kind of tie into the cell tower fence and just kind of come along that backside just to kind of close it in a little bit. Obviously we don't want people coming into our shop, so on that side of it.
It looks like your entrance is off of Raffle Road right in front of the steel building, if I'm looking at this correctly, alongside the office to the
Correct.
south. Would that be gated eventually?
No, so if you can kind of picture it, like I said, it's hard with my chicken scratch, but that office is gonna be almost kind of like a separate parking lot. Our trucks are not gonna enter in through there. They'll enter in through that cell tower, that drive that's already existing. So that's where I would kind of bring it to, and then I would fence it more just, here, I might as well stand up and kind of show you.
The trucks are coming in on parcel 2?
Yeah, so they would come in through this existing one, and then, because this is where that building that I plan on putting is here, and then we would store the equipment kind of in this area. So instead of having them come through where the office is, I would just have them come in through here. So we would only gate in kind of like the area back here where the trucks are gonna be.
So in effect, you will be using parcel 2?
We might use just like this portion of it too, just to keep some of our equipment on, but up here, like everything in this area up here, I don't plan on, there's a lot of trees and everything, I don't plan on getting rid of any of that stuff.
All right, thanks.
Yep, no
Appreciate it.
problem.
If I may just say one thing, the roads that are existing on parcel 2 are dedicated to the cell tower. Those are already there and they're already being used by trucks to go in and out of the cell towers.
May I ask you, for example, is that like an AT&T cell tower or Ameritex?
It's owned by American Tower Corporation. They're a large corporation and they do focus on AT&T. And they use those existing roads in and out to service the cell tower.
So there's an encumberment on the lot for the cell tower, but would that also be true for the driveways for that given company?
Yes.
Interesting. Okay, thanks for that. That's all.
Ms. Gardner?
Well, just to clarify that, not to beat it to death or anything, but you're gonna plan on your trucks coming in on that cell tower road?
Correct.
And then are you gonna create another portion of that road to come down to parcel one?
Parcel one, yeah, so once
Okay.
it gets kind of halfway through, we'll kind of steer our trucks into our parcel kind of thing.
Okay. How much of this, the 3 parcels, the 7.8 acres or whatever it is, do you think you'll be using for your business with the storage and the office?
Realistically, I see pretty much the entire parcel one. With, like I said, if we use parcel two, it'll be just very minimal of it. It'll be more just to drive in kind of thing, you know, not so much to actually leave stuff there, but kind of as the road to get to parcel one.
Okay, all right, thank you. That's all I have.
Ms. Dunn?
Okay, now I'm a little bit more confused. You're talking about the roads are dedicated for the cell tower? Then how do you plan on using their road, that road, if it's already dedicated for somebody else to be used by somebody else to use it for yours?
That's just for them to get to the cell tower.
Okay, so it's not dedicated, it just
Well,
happens to be a road?
I'm sorry, I don't know what the definition of dedicated means in, you know, for this purpose.
Well, I'm not that familiar with cell towers themselves, so.
They just need an access road, so it's,
So if they need an access road, is there any writing that says that that road has to be used for the cell tower? I guess is that the way I want to say it? Because if it's to be used for the cell tower, how do you use it for your road, is what I'm trying to say, without having any.
well, the cell tower needs to.
I understand that, but who has the authority to tell the cell tower people, or to tell you that you can use their road to get to the cell tower?
Well, the
And
cell.
it's not their road.
It's, right, it's
But
not
it's
their,
not-
it's not
Excuse me,
their
Mary.
road.
Did you grant an easement to the cell tower?
That was the word I was trying to come up with. They have
Okay,
an
so they
easement.
don't, okay,
They have an easement across the property to utilize that road and then to go back out the other way. Now, there are times when they use,
the top road to get to it and come out the bottom.
yeah, or they go up this road, turn around and come back, or vice versa.
Okay, so they
Or they can
can,
go all
but
the way around.
it's not an exclusive easement
No,
for
ma'am.
them. Thank you, sir, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Thank you. I couldn't think of the word, but that
helps.
was
Well, I
it.
couldn't think of the
Yeah.
word either.
That's exactly right. It's an
Even
easement
having-
for them to utilize to get to the cell tower.
Okay, and so then you're not going to be using parcel 3 for anything at all? It's
As
just
of-
that you bought
as
it
of
because
right
it's
now,
part of the deal?
Correct, as of right now, I mean,
And quite
I can't say
frankly,
20 years down the line, we grow and we need it,
And
but
quite
as of right
frankly-
now, for the foreseeable future, I have no plans to.
okay, and quite frankly, parcel 2 is in the same situation, except you're going to use
Parcel two, I
of it,
would say, is something that
Is
we're gonna
something-
utilize at some point.
or part of it.
Right, but parcel three, or what, yeah, 3, as of right now, and even in the foreseeable future, I see us not really utilizing it as of right now.
Okay. You started a sentence that said you have the adjacent property is zoned I-1, and I think what you meant was across the street.
Across the street, yeah.
Okay, so it's not something that you had that was across the street.
No,
It's just
I
the
know
The way my
the owner of that
old
building's
ears
my
heard
father-in-law,
it.
so I know,
The way
I
my
know
old ears
the.
heard it, I wrote it down going, wait, what? And
Yeah.
so I had to ask. And how long, if this is approved, how long will it take for you to start making progress on?
It would probably be a year because,
It takes that long to.
well,
We
only
have
because
permits.
we're in the middle of our busy work season right now, so for me to get my equipment there to start digging up the road and everything, it might not be till towards the end of this year that we would actually start construction on everything.
Okay,
But once construction starts, I can't imagine it taking more than a couple months to get everything, built up. I mean, we're not building an elaborate 5-story building. It's gonna be a small little 2,500 square foot office. And then the steel buildings, those don't take that long to put up. It's gonna be very similar style building as the property the mechanic shop that's right south of it. So those are a matter of just pouring the concrete and building it up, so.
okay. I don't know if this, the zoning for lot 1 is currently,
A1,
and the zoning for lot 2 is also?
correct.
Okay. No other questions at the moment?
Mr. Cozen?
Thank you. How long have you been in business?
It's a loaded question. We started the company we own now in 2003. My father started the business, but he owned a different company in 1983 that we had partners with. So we've technically been in business since '83, but we separated from our partners in 2003 and started D-Land Construction, the existing business now.
And you are, and using the right word, certified to do business both by IDOT?
Correct. We have an IDOT pre-qualification, and we are, obviously that covers all the local municipalities as well.
Right. As well as throughout the coverage zone of District 1? Or
Yes.
So what are some of the farthest contracts that you have acted upon?
Farthest, I mean, we've gone as far south as Thornton, Illinois, and Frankfurt, and down in that area. I mean, it's been a while since we've been down that way. We were down that way more when our office was in Bensenville, because that's where we were prior to Algonquin. Now we tend to stick more in McHenry and Lake County, is where the majority of our work is. And a little bit of McHenry, because we're in, obviously, McHenry County. But yeah, I'd say the farthest we go now, over the last even 5 to 10 years, would probably be Aurora in that area. But we tend to stick around like Lake and McHenry County, is the majority of the bulk of our work.
When searching for a location, what other parcels were you looking at? Or
Honestly, I was focusing more on staying in Algonquin just because we were there already, so the move would have been easier. But yeah, I was trying to stay. I like the McHenry area, McHenry County area, so we were trying to stay in McHenry County. So we were looking in McHenry, Algonquin, Woodstock, essentially just anywhere in the McHenry County area.
so approximately how far is this parcel from your existing place of business?
It's probably like 30 to 35 minutes.
In terms of mileage, because
Oh,
traffic
mileage?
and congestion can,
I'll tell you right now. Yeah, I don't know the exact mileage.
well, approximately.
I mean, I'm guessing it's, yeah, I mean, I would say something like that. Let's see, 1,300. Jeez. It's showing 15 miles from here, so.
So within a 15-mile zone, this was the most ideal parcel in McHenry County?
Yeah, that we found, yeah.
Is there utilities to this property?
Not that I'm aware of.
There's utilities right next door,
But there's none on the property?
none on the property.
None that crosses Raffle Road?
No, sir.
And none that crosses Route 120?
No, sir.
Does, who maintains Raffle Road? Would either of you know?
Does Woodstock?
I don't believe
know.
so. I believe I think it's the county.
Okay.
I'm not 100%
No,
positive
just-
on that, but I think it's the county.
I'm curious, because the road program, because we did the Woodstock road program last year. This year we didn't get it, but Raffle Road was on the list for Woodstock, on one of the streets that they're resurfacing, but north of the property. So maybe when it gets
Further
closer
up.
to the residential area, they take over maybe.
To the high school up there.
Yeah, so
And would you know what the posted speed limit is on Raffle Road?
I do not know off the top of my head.
Thank you. There's a water body that is shown on the western edge. Do you have any history for what that feature is? Or? No.
It's again, it's always been there since I've owned the property.
But it's locally created. There's no fountain or service to it. Oh, excuse me. How long have you owned the property?
23 years.
23 years. I'd like to reserve my time for questions for staff, for some factual information, if that's, then I conclude my questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
So when you were considering this request, you knew what you wanted to do, but did you look in the ordinance to see what else is allowed in the I-1 district?
I mean, yeah, I mean, based on our other properties as well too, and other properties in the area. I mean, the only thing that I noticed that I would have to bring up possibly, and I was gonna bring up today, is the outdoor storage. Because I know even at our current building now, we had to get a special use permit for that. because a lot of places, that's been our biggest issue, finding a property is the outdoor storage. So I'm
And
not.
why is that?
A lot of villages just don't have that, like most of these industrial, even business, they don't, it's not part of it. You have to get a special use or conditional use, whatever the proper terms that you guys use in the county for that to allow for outside storage. That's been the biggest hurdle that we've had to overcome too, is finding that. So I am aware that that's a possibility that we might have to go that route as well too. But other than that, everything else kind of fits, you know, the bill on what we're looking to do in the industrial
Did you look at
zoning.
what Woodstock's plan is? I mean, what their designation is for this area, what they plan to do for the future?
For Woodstock?
Yes.
No, I did not. I wasn't.
It is neighborhood development, is residential, it matches the county land use plan, just for your information.
Okay.
It's not industrial. Do you know what this, well, I guess I'll save that question for staff. So these, all these residences on the west side of Raffa Road look like they're also in unincorporated McHenry County, and then the city of Woodstock looks like Marion Central is within incorporated Woodstock. Correct. Some of the other, you know, knowing that, you know, I know what you would like to do, but some of the other, and as I said, and I have to remind sometimes the other people on the board, you know, what he wants to do specifically with his business is kind of irrelevant. We're looking at an I-1 map amendment, which he could turn around and sell to anybody for, you know, he can have the storage yard, he can, an arena is permitted, an animal care shelter, and an indoor athletic facility, major auto repair, minor auto repair, broadcasting studio, lumber yard, marina. There's just a myriad other uses that are allowed in an industrial use that with this change to the map amendment, any of those can be put in this location. So what he's doing is kind of immaterial. I mean, what we have to look at is any of those uses. Are they appropriate on this property? So I'm just reminding the board of that, is that that's what we have to look at. It's different, you know, we have conditional use requests that come to us, and then we do look at specific questions for what the business is and where they're locating this or that, what driveway they're using. For this, it's a map amendment, it's totally different ballgame. And so what he's gonna do specifically, I mean, if it's permitted in I-1, he can do whatever he wants. Would you confirm that, Anna?
That is correct.
So you've addressed the standards, so I'll leave the rest of my questions for staff. But do you have another question, Ms.
Oh, no, I
Dunn?
can direct it to staff as well as I can direct it to.
Okay.
Yep.
So at this time, members of the public can ask questions of the petitioner. You, sir, if you're going to want to ask a question, I'm going to have to swear you in.
Not a problem.
Okay. Would you raise your right hand, please? Do you affirm that the testimony you give would be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
100%.
So anyone that would, first I'll ask Anna if she has questions, and then any of you that want to ask questions, I'll call on you as well. So first we'll go to Ms. Kurtzman from the staff.
Thank you, Ms. Krustra. No, I do not have any questions at this time for the applicant, and I do want to express my appreciation that you reminded the board that this is a map amendment and that the specific development is not something that you should be taking into your consideration. You should be considering the standards and whether or not I-1 at this location is inappropriate, meeting the standards. Thank you.
Okay, now any member of the public that has a question, if you'd like to come up, you'll have to give your name and your address, and then you can ask questions regarding his testimony. And these would be questions only for the petitioner. If you have a statement you want to give later, there'll be an opportunity for you to do that at that time. And you'll have 3 minutes to tell the board whatever you feel about this petition.
It would be more so for a statement for the board.
Okay, all right,
Going
that'll.
more along with how it could be used, or how it's gonna be used, and how it could potentially be used
Sure.
long-term.
Okay, yeah, you'll have that opportunity
Yeah.
later. Ma'am, would you like to ask a question?
I would.
Okay,
Did you just want me to stand or?
yeah,
Okay.
that would be great. If it's comfortable for you, I see you have something on your
Oh,
foot.
it's a broken little toe, it's fine.
Okay. All right,
It's
so
silly.
please introduce your name and your address, and then you can ask
Okay,
questions.
I am Dr. Danielle Ray. I am at the animal hospital, that's 11710, right, Route 120. So,
If you would go up,
Or-
if that's okay for you to
yes,
walk?
I can do that.
Jason.
It's not bad. It's really, it's, so I am like, I believe right here.
Okay,
That's where I am.
so you would be directly east of this property?
Yeah, so auto body shop and then
Okay,
I'm there.
okay.
I guess my question is about noise and trucks in and out and that kind of noise for myself, because I have animals that are gonna spook easily coming out of cars, and for, you know, the school across the street. How is the equipment mainly going on trucks that will be driven, and is there a certain time frame? Like how early in the morning are we talking?
I mean, it's very rare that we bring stuff back to our shop. I'm not gonna say it doesn't happen, but if they do leave in the morning, it's, you know, we leave early, like they'll be there at like 5:30, 6 in the morning, taking things out to the job sites.
Okay,
But like I said, most of our equipment, it doesn't happen daily though.
okay,
You know, it's this, most of the time when a piece of equipment goes on a job site, most of our job sites are, you know, a month long, 2 months long. So once the equipment goes out, it's out for a while. So it's not a daily occurrence. It'll just be once in a while that a truck will be leaving in and out of the shop. But yeah, they would leave early, like 5:30, in the morning, yeah.
okay. And would there be any like noise buffers on the property?
I mean, a
We live
fence
above
would
the
be,
property.
yeah, I mean, a fence would be probably the only thing we'd be able to put up.
Okay.
I mean, as far as noise though, like, it would just be the engines, you know, it's not like, we wouldn't be like, we're not dumping or doing any, you know, like.
And the shop's not gonna be super.
No, the shop, I mean, the mechanic, it would be like a mechanic shop, so very similar to what you have next door anyway. It's just the same type of noise, you know, a drill, a welder or something along those lines, you know.
Do you have backup beepers?
We do, yeah. But those are easily, because there's a lot of job sites that we're on that they make us shut it off before 7 o'clock, so we can shut those off. That's not, I can make sure that our guys don't use it in the yard, only use it on the job site.
And then I don't know if I'm the only property there, but we only have well water. I don't have any city water. So is there any plan for any runoff or anything off the equipment or mitigation or anything?
I mean, yeah, I mean, the parking lot's gonna, wherever we park the equipment is either gonna be, you know, gravel or paved, so it's not gonna be anything that's gonna be spilling out, and the trucks aren't like spilling anything, or we're not, like I said, dumping anything. It's just gonna be, any runoff is just gonna be the wet rain that hits the equipment or something like that. It's not gonna be, we don't use any toxic materials or anything like that. If anything's gonna be in our site, it's gonna be like gravel and stuff like that, nothing toxic or anything like that, or hazardous, I should say.
Thank you.
I'd like to just comment too on, I had the property cleared earlier this year, and I left a buffer along that back where it's kind of adjoining to your, so there is the trees that are there that will sort of serve as a sound barrier.
A little bit of a noise.
Yeah, a little bit of a sound barrier.
And we're always willing to work with, I mean, if we have to plant more trees, or, I'm definitely willing to do stuff like that to help make the noise a little bit less too, whatever we have to do, so that's not an issue for me. It only makes the property look nicer for us as well as adding more trees, so that wouldn't be an issue.
I have an autistic son, so I really.
Yeah,
noise is a
then yeah,
trigger, so I
exactly.
appreciate it.
I would, yeah, I mean, that's not something that's gonna, we would definitely be willing to work with that and do something along those lines too, so.
Any other questions you have?
Those are the only questions.
Okay. All right, so at this time, we will take testimony from the public, starting with the staff. Ms. Kurtzman.
Okay. wanted to verify something before I made a statement, okay?
Sure.
Okay, for the record, my name is Anna Kurtzman. I am a senior planner. As we have noted that this property is at 214 Raffle Road in Woodstock. And it is approximately 8.7 acres. The southern portion currently is zoned B3, and the northern two parcels currently zoned A1. And the applicant is requesting to I1. A question had been raised earlier by one of the board members, I forget which one, as to where Marmion is actually located. Miriam, I'm sorry. My cursor doesn't show up on there, but you can see the red dot that's on the screen. Then slightly to the south of that is the Woodstock Animal Hospital. Then you get to McHenry Avenue, and where Raffle comes in at McHenry to the south there, you can see some of the track and field and the fields for the school there. And then, as I believe one of the applicants mentioned, that the actual school facility is to the west off of McHenry there, just to give a reference there. So the surrounding properties to the west, to the north, and to the east are all zoned A1. You have a little smidge to the south as you cross over McHenry Avenue 120, and then south of that dividing line there is also A1. Immediately to the east of the B3 portion of the applicant's property is also zoned B3 and has been noted kitty corner to the southeast of that property is property that's currently zoned I1. Surrounding land uses are a little more mixed. You do have some single-family residents to the north and to the west. You have the school to the south there, and you have the commercial that is to the east as well. The county's 2030 future land use map is denoting that this area is intended to be developed as a residential area. In your packet, I will note that this area is also listed as a SARA area, a sensitive aquifer recharge area. The comprehensive plan has policies that both support the applicant's request. We have some economic related policies that could support his request. We also have the residential policies that would support a denial of the request. I'm open for questions at this point.
I looked forever and finally I found it. And it's not included in our staff report, but under the purpose for the I-1 Light Industrial District, our ordinance states that the purpose of the I-1 Light Industrial District is to provide for a wide variety of light manufacturing, fabricating, processing, research, wholesale distributing, and warehousing uses. Light industrial uses are enclosed, low-intensity, non-nuisance light fabrication and assembly-type manufacturing, as well as research facility with little or no outside impacts. The industrial zoning districts are generally located away from residential development and near transportation facilities and municipalities. Dwellings are permitted above or behind ground floor light industrial uses to allow for a mixed-use environment, typically for caretaker residences. So in the purpose, it's stating that it's generally not located near residential development. But that's not in your report, but would you concur with that?
Yes.
And when I read that though, and then I think of the storage yard and the noise and why municipalities ask for conditional uses for that sort of thing, I can understand why they would want that, because it is more noise than typically a light industrial district. But in our ordinance, it is listed as permitted in an I-1 district. Kind of interesting, but conditional use in a B3 district. I want to ask you about the I-1 that is near this. Do you know how long that's been in place? That's
I did look
seems
it up,
to
but
me
I
it's
do not
really
recall.
old.
I do not recall.
Would you say that it's been there for many, many years?
Yes.
And would you say that any development other than residential, from here even going west in Woodstock has really old zoning that has not changed in the last 20 years?
If I recall correctly, the I-1 zoning is original zoning for this area, so going back to at least 79.
So would you say there's really been no change in this area as far as adding more industrial or business type development in this area?
I think the most recent zoning that would relate to a commercial type use might be the animal hospital with the conditional use for the kennel in the A1 district.
On that blue speckled area on the bottom, I don't see something that matches to the right, but that is all the athletic fields and that sort of thing.
That is all the
Marion Central,
athletic fields, and it did not carry over well in the graphics, but it is supposed to be reflecting the government institutional utilities designation.
So the high school is to the west, kind of the greenish area, but really there's athletic and, activities for education that's involved all in that blue area,
That is
really to
correct.
the south of here as well.
That is correct.
I think that's all the questions I have right now. Does anybody else on the board have a question? I just start with Mr. Go ahead,
All
Mr.
right,
Coe.
well, thank you. Just to briefly, building on the chair's comment, can you just give us a range of uses that are permitted under the I-1?
I didn't bring my,
I have my chart.
I was gonna say, Linnea was reading a number of them, so.
Would it be incumbent if you could just give us a highlight of the top ones that jump out at you?
Sure, I kind of went down the list on the first page. I'll go down here.
If I may, some of the uses are household hazardous waste collection over here, a recycling collection area, and the reason I mentioned those, stables, food processing, which I think includes slaughterhouses.
Yes.
When we look, those are the things that at least I looked at that gave me pause, because this was a sensitive aquifer recharge area. So excuse me for butting in.
No.
Thank you for reviewing that. Yes.
And thank you for adding to my education.
You brought your table, must be.
I did.
Yes. The other, and the question's already been asked about the light industrial to the south of State Route 120.
Correct.
That has been there for more than 10 years.
I would say that'd be correct.
That's correct. Is there a way that you can drill in on Broadway Court at that intersection? You had the map up.
And that's the map, so tell me when I get to it.
Right, so it was the aerial.
This one here?
And yes. And the novelty, and maybe it's summer clutter in my mind, Broadway Court is an intersection street to the west of the intersection of 120 and Rafferty. So it's actually about 80.
Oh, it's the intersection to Marion Central, I believe.
Yes. So that means that you can go from the western edge of Marion Central, is that correct? And then travel easterly and enter into the intersection of Rafferty Court and 120.
Raffle Road.
Raffle Road, thank you. And so that is also the intersection then that the students would use to access the athletic fields to the south of 120 that we were speaking to?
I can speak from my own experience that yes, that happens. The students tend to leave the school at that intersection a lot, and then also use the athletic fields to the south.
So my mispronunciation does not detract from the fact that that was the same road that the applicant was talking about, the truck traffic accessing the property on the east of Raffle Road? Or is that the same road?
When he's speaking of Raffle Road, that would
Yes.
be the same road.
That would be the same road. And then the,
I don't want to be answering those.
no,
That's just my,
Yeah, you're supposed to be
understanding the
asking.
road.
Thank you.
That's Raffle Road.
Right, and for purposes of the public record, I have most often visited Marion Central from the far west and have not taken the opportunity to go through the campus to that intersection with the break it has from 120 and its signals, but it should be noted in our discussion. I have no other questions, and I thank for the assist.
Ms. Donner.
Yes, for the education of Mr. Cozen, that is also the intersection that is used by the suburban bus for all of the students who come through, so that you would have bus traffic there through, whenever their bus routes, they do go through there and for Marion.
Thank you.
For Anna, another question, 2 questions. Has Woodstock objected, any objections to this request?
I have not received any objections.
No objections, okay. And could you go again one more time, what kind of zoning is on each one of these parcels?
So the top 2, the northern 2, are zoned A1.
Okay,
The southern one is B3.
okay, but there's nothing on B3, with the variation. I was under the impression, I heard the gentleman who owns the property said that the B3 variance was for the cell tower. Did my ears not hear? I just,
It was for the billboard.
for the billboard. Sorry, okay, my mistake. Okay, that's the tower, it's for the billboard, not the cell tower. I didn't catch that correctly. And that's it, and that's it for me for now.
Ms. Carter.
I'm just wondering why this request was for an I-1 rather than a conditional use or some other type of zoning. How did that come about?
That would be a question for the applicant.
Okay, that's what I thought possibly, but I thought maybe staff had some input on that. Thank you.
Mr. Schnabel.
You want my opinion on this?
No,
No.
do you have any questions for
Questions?
staff?
I do not, no.
Okay, Mr. Kernick, do you have
Yeah,
any
just
questions?
a quick question. In the staff report, at the concluding paragraph, it says there are several environmental policies which indicate that changing the classification isn't appropriate. Those environmental concerns, do they have to do with the fact that this is a sensitive aquifer and a recharge area?
Correct.
And concerning about contamination of the aquifers, I assume?
Potentially.
I have no further questions.
Also, Anna, could you, maybe go through for the board the whole LISA score and what this score means and what it entails and how you use that and how we are to interpret that for zoning changes? The LISA score for this is 176, indicating a high impact to existing land use and resources.
Okay. The LISA score is a tool that the Soil and Water Conservation District uses to assist bodies such as yourself in coming up with land use decisions. The higher the score, if I remember correctly, the more potential negative impact there is on natural resources. That's what it amounts to.
Okay, so now we'll go to, if no one has any other questions for staff, we'll move on to the comments section by the public. So now at this time, any member of the public, if you'd like to come up and give a statement, you get 3 minutes each to be able to make a statement on what you feel about this petition. I'll just use my phone, so if you just give me a second.
Speaking of public. Crowd small.
Okay, if you could speak loud enough so that the recording or wherever it is, I guess it's here on the table, would pick you up.
Initially, my name and address.
Yes, please.
Todd Banky, 2819 Raycraft Road, Woodstock, Illinois. My concern, or my rhetoric would be more entailed with, you covered a lot of it with the environmental side. That is a very high recharge zone. You look at the maps on Athena, the impact to the area environmentally would probably be not good because it's a low spot. I've been in the area all my life, been here 46 years. Been in farming all my life. And my one question for the board is there any plans, or I guess for detention? You're gonna have a lot of runoff. So that water's gotta go somewhere. There's no storm water around there, storm sewer. So that's gonna impact the neighbors negatively because there's swamp. I mean, again, it's a very high recharge zone aquifer. And then noise is gonna be a negative impact for the local community because there's houses all along the west side. You got the school to the southwest, you got the ball fields to the south. That would be another concern. And also, how is that gonna impact that township road? Because that's not county, that's not city of Woodstock. I don't know if it's Door Township or Greenwood, one of the two.
I think it's Greenwood.
Greenwood, yeah, I'm in Greenwood Township also. So that impact to that road. Also, there is a lot of traffic there from Woodstock North High School and Marion. So you start putting big trucks on there. I have daughters that go to Woodstock North. Granted, they drive good, but a lot of kids don't. You got a lot of kids coming into one intersection from around the area, and that would be another concern. Yeah, I just have concerns for the community. I mean, I don't want to hold anybody back on their business, but it's just a tough spot to do this type of business. You know, some low impact makes sense. And I wholeheartedly agree that I-1, once you open that can of worms, you do whatever you want. I mean, that's very evident on 120 as you go out of town. Those, when Merriman owned that, they don't concrete their asphalt, all that stuff, right, as you go out up to 14. So I just don't think it's in the best interest of the community to do this. Not for anybody specifically, just the zoning. And that's my piece. 2.5 minutes.
Yeah, you have 30 seconds left. Would you like to make a comment?
No, I think he answered everything with my questions.
Okay. Do you have a closing statement, sir?
Yeah. So just to kind of go back on what I kind of heard with you guys, with your questions and everything too. The one thing I wanted to touch on with the concern of the intersection where the school comes in, the entrance to what we plan on doing is north of that. It's not going to be in that same intersection where the school entrance is. We would be coming in from further north of that intersection. And also, if we were to go through with this too, the hours to address the concern of the kids driving, because obviously that is a big concern, but our hours are much different than the school hours. If our trucks are going in and out, they'd be going in and out at 5:30, 6 in the morning, and they won't be coming back till after they're out of school already too. So as far as traffic impact, our hours are much different than school hours, obviously. So that impact wouldn't be as great as it would seem. And then as far as storm sewer and stuff like that with runoff, obviously we're not, we're gonna be adding drainage and whatever we need to do to create a parking lot or whatever we do. I mean, that is our business. We do drainage and road work. So anything that we would have to add to assist in the drainage and runoff and anything like that, we would be more than capable of doing ourselves as well too. And we would do it for our own purposes as well too, not just for, you know, the community purposes. And yeah, I mean, it's as far as like, just to address a question that I heard too, I don't know who said it about instead of why the I-1 instead of just a conditional use. It's just for the fact that the I-1 just is more, it relates to our business a lot more than agricultural and then doing a conditional use, because I just didn't want to limit ourselves to, you know, if I miss something on the A1 and then we ask for a conditional use for just outside storage, but then we're not allowed to, you know, store some gravel on the site, you know, so it just made sense to our business a little bit more to do the rezoning as opposed to ask for a conditional use. Just because the conditional use usually just covers one specific thing as opposed to like the I-1 is more broad and it gives you more opportunity to use it the way we were going to use it. Other than that, I obviously to address the concern about obviously if it changes to I-1 and I sell it or something like that, it can be changed to anything else. I do get that. Our intention obviously is not to get rid of this property. This is where, you know, we've been in business since the 80s, and I'm hoping that maybe one day my kids will take it over too, and I don't see us going anywhere and it changing. And you know, this isn't going to be like we're not going to be dumping concrete and stuff like that. That's not what we use it for. We take our concrete and stuff to dump facilities in the area. We don't use our own shop for that. Even our current shop doesn't have any of that on it. So it would strictly be just to run our business out of our office and to store our equipment, and that's it. So it's not going to be used for anything like that. I know that could always change if it gets sold or anything like that, but I feel I should just let you guys know our intention for the property. So that's really all I have.
I use my last 30 seconds, possibly? No?
I think it's too late. Yeah, you
Oh,
had your
come on.
chance.
It'll take me 10 seconds, or 15 seconds. Very good points. I think. Can I say it quick?
Okay, go ahead. I'll give you.
So as far as access on the road, there's a hill that comes down Raffle Road, and where you're gonna be pulling in with your trucks, people come flying through there at 55 miles an hour. You know this. Second thing, detention. You can put the water anywhere, but that's a low spot. How are you gonna control the water? That's something the board needs to really, really look at. How are you gonna, because that's all lowland around there and it's all swamp. Everything to the north and west. Not everything, but a lot. You can confirm it.
Okay, so at this time, then we'll close the hearing portion and we'll open the voting portion of the meeting. Again, this is petition Z250042. At this time, I would entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make that motion for discussion.
I'll second it
By
for
Ms.
discussion.
Garten, seconded by Ms. Donner. Discussion, Ms. Garten.
This is a request for a reclassification for 3 parcels from A1 to and B3 to I1. This is at 214 Raffle Road in Woodstock. The standards had been gone through, and the applicant did answer the standards, actually pretty satisfactorily. Some of them are open for interpretation. My feeling is that if this were a request for a conditional use, I would be much more comfortable with this, because we would be able to know exactly what was going to happen. We would be able to say exactly what you could and couldn't do, and we would be able to hold you to that. But with this very open-ended I-1, where anything can come in, because you don't know the future, I don't know the future, nobody does. Anything could come in, and it could potentially open the door for a whole different atmosphere in that area. Excuse me, allergies. I just feel that an I-1 is a little bit too intense for this area. I think with the school with the residential area around there, and also with the water issues, because according to the conservation water report we got, there is an area that just automatically ponds whenever it rains. And it is a sensitive aquifer area, so because that water collects there, anything that comes off those trucks, even if, if somebody has an oil leak or a gas leak, could go right into the land. I'm just not comfortable with this, and I'm very sorry, but I'm going to have to vote no on this one.
Mr. Cozen.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. It is my understanding that in matters involving a map amendment, there is consideration given to a trend of development. There is nothing in the record brought forward by the applicant or the staff report that shows that the zoning on this property or the comprehensive plan is contrary to what the applicant is proposing. Or rather, it reinforces what we have learned in terms of the transportation, in terms of the drainage feature on the property, as well as, most telling, the land uses in the area. However, I say that with some recognition that in Algonquin Township, as far back as 1918, a current family installed a construction company, and who knew that almost 90 years later, a residential development would go on it. But we cannot foresee that type of land use, and given the existing uses that are around there, I will not be supporting this application in that regard.
Mr. Schnabel.
Throughout this, I have nothing against this company or this idea. I think it should be done elsewhere. I don't like the idea of parking all these trucks in a Sarah area that will leak stuff, hydraulic fluid, brake fluid. That's just number one, but number two, I'm not in favor of making the I-1 map amendment for an operation of this kind, much like Ms. Gardner outlined as well. So I will not be supporting the map amendment.
Ms. Donner.
I'm going to go back to your chairman's original comments on all the other things that can be on an I-1. If this was approved for an I-1 and you couldn't get the permits to do everything else that you want to do because of the conditions of the property itself, then any of that is open to anybody else who thinks that they can come in and do something that might be more detrimental. I have no objection to you or what you think you want to do, but I don't think that this is the correct property for it, and I will be voting against it.
Mr. Kernick.
There are 8 factors under section 16.20.010.E.1 of our development ordinance that we have to consider. The only factor in my mind that allows us to consider what your job is point G. It's the community need for the proposed use. I don't see that our community has any need for the proposed use. And as the chair indicated at the beginning, we have to look at the compatibility of the proposed zoning itself, not what your use is, but the proposed zoning. There are 8 factors that we consider. It's our obligation. We're tasked with applying the law to the facts as we see them. So in applying the law and looking at each fact, the compatibility of the proposed zoning with the existing use of nearby property, it is not compatible. The extent to which property values of the subject property are diminished by the existing zoning, I don't know that that's really a factor one way or another. The extent to which the public health and welfare are promoted by the existing zoning, that enters the environmental concerns that we have. Relative gain to the public as compared to the hardship imposed if the zoning is denied, that is a neutral factor in my mind. Suitability of the property for the purposes of which it is presently zoned, arguably it is, although it's not farmed. And The only factor I think that applies that may be arguably in favor of granting the zoning is the length of time the property has been vacant as zoned. However, no one factor is controlling, as the ordinance says. A map amendment is not controlled by any one factor under the following standards, but rather the approval of amendments is based on a balancing of the factors under each standard. And the balancing of each of the factors, my view is that the proposed zoning request should be denied.
And I agree with Mr. Koenig. I think on the first approval standard, the compatibility of the proposed zoning with the existing use and zoning of nearby property. I don't believe industrial uses are compatible this close to the school and to the residential areas to the west and to the north of this property. Also, the comprehensive land use plan. Our county calls for this to be residentially developed in the future, as does the city of Woodstock. And in this section of the county, there really hasn't been any rezonings. This is on the east, just east of the Woodstock city limits. And it's just residential or, and the school use there. And as far as traffic, there are a lot of kids that come to Marion Central from the south and east, and they come up Fleming, or they come on 120, turn onto Raffle to get into Marion Central, as well as Woodstock north, being farther north up on Raffle. So as far as the public health, safety, and welfare of the public being promoted by the existing zoning, I think not adding to all that with traffic, things that you would have in an industrial type zoning such as this, that would impact the public health, safety, and welfare if we did rezone this to industrial. So I just don't think it meets the standards, the law that we have under our ordinance, so I will be voting against this petition. So I will call for the vote. So this is to approve, so.
I thought the vote is to, was the vote to approve?
Yes, so you will be voting nay then if you don't want to approve it. So Ms. Gardner?
No.
Mr. Cozen?
No.
Mr. Schnabel?
No.
Ms. Donner?
Nay.
And I will vote nay. And Mr. Koenig?
No.
So, so that vote to approve is failed, 0-6.
That's right.
Yes, but I just realized I made an error in that you are entitled to 7 votes if you wanted to wait until we have another person to vote. I feel bad, I should have told you that beforehand. You're willing to just go ahead with this then?
Well, I mean, one vote was not gonna change.
Right,
You need
right.
a majority, so.
Okay, so that vote fails, 0-6, so I would accept a motion to deny.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Ms. Gardner, second by Ms. Donner to deny this petition. I will call for the vote. Ms. Gardner? Aye would be to
Aye.
deny. Mr. Cozen?
Aye.
Mr. Schnabel?
Aye.
Ms. Donner?
Aye.
Mr. Koenig?
Aye.
And I vote aye, so the motion to deny the petition is passed by a 6-0 vote. So at this time, we're done with that petition. We'll move on to the second petition we have for today.
While you take care of your paperwork there, I'm just going to advise the applicant and our guests here that this is a recommendation that goes to the county board. This is a rezoning. Does this make the August? Today's the 10th. Yes. Okay. So this would go to the August county board meeting, and they will have a final determination at that point. You do have an opportunity to speak to the zoning, or excuse me, to the county board during what's called the whole meeting, which is the second Thursday of the month at 9 a.m. So I can give you more information if you have questions about that.
Yes, good question. Is conditional use application still a possibility for this property?
You may certainly apply for a conditional use permit, yes. Okay. And I'll be happy to talk to you about options with that.
No.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we'll move on. The second petition on our agenda today is petition Z25-0050. And this is, yes, oh, I'm sorry. The address is 704 North Rose Farm Road, Woodstock. The applicant is Ryan and Micheline Nikolic. The request is to reclassify the A1 Agricultural District to the E2 Estate District. And the PIN number associated with this petition is 0736100013. The location, it is 2.3 acre subject property located on the east side of North Rose Farm Road, approximately 690 feet south of US Route 14 in Heartland Township. And this petition has been reviewed and the following items have been received prior to today's scheduled hearing. The publisher's certificate of publication from a newspaper is dated June 24, 2025, and thereby meets ordinance requirements. Affidavit of posting was signed and the date posted was June 23, 2025, and thereby meets ordinance requirements. Affidavit of mailing was signed and date mailed was June 20, 2025, also meets ordinance requirements. The survey has been checked against the petition, legal notice, and publication in the newspaper, and all three match. The filing fees have been paid. The endangered species consultation was not required for this petition, and the McHenry County Soil and Water Conservation District report has been received. This would be NRI L250354696. And now at this time, we will continue that hearing on this petition until July 17th, 2025 at 1:30 p.m. in this same room.
Correct.
Thank you.
We will not have a full board of that day, right? Do we have 5 or 6 or what?
Do we have a full board for the 17th?
No. Okay. Okay, so at this time, the hearing is closed.